Hello guys, and a very warm welcome to this working with your data session, quite hands-on using Enterprise Guide. I'll basically be starting off from a previous point where we were using the product underscore types data set. We'd imported this data set, and this is where we left it. Recall that there's a product key variable, and we want to basically highlight some ways of creating new variables or changing lengths from this derived variable. So I'll create a new code called new length example. I'll start off by creating a data step with a data set or with a new data set called product underscore types underscore 2. Then via the length statement, I'm going to specify a smaller length for this product key underscore 2 variable. So I'll do this by using just that character, sort of that dollar and then 5 sign. Then I will read in the product types dataset using a set statement, and then I will create the product underscore key underscore 2 variable from the product key. Note that it's just a simple assignation, so there's just no modifications that have taken place on that variable, but because the actual length has been reduced, i.e. the space that we're allocating for that product key 2 variable has been reduced, you'll see that when you run your proc print that the product key variable only contains the first 5 characters or 5 digits of the product key variable. Okay, so very important this, especially when you're creating variables, reading in variables. Do make sure that you get your lengths and you're allocating sufficient space for your variables so that you don't get caught out with things like, if it's a description, for example, they get truncated. Okay, now if we go on to the second example, which is to do with creating new variables, let me just create a new code. I'm just going to call it new variable example. And in this particular case, I'm just going to create a new data set called product. Then with the length statement, I'm going to define a category, using a length of 10 for it. I will then, via the input statement, tell SAS that I've got 2 category and product name variables, which are character, and then a price variable, which is numeric. I then use the data line statement. I'm just going to copy and paste my data lines information, hit run, and then just use a proc print to make sure that all went well. Okay, so this should be familiar to you from a previous lecture. It's just a simple data lines import. Okay, so then when you get the results, you see there, all went well. The products data set is there. The import went well. Now if I create a second data set using a data step called products underscore new, use the set statement to read in the products data set, and then the new price variable, I'm just going to define it as a transformation, or as the result of applying a function, in this case the square root function, to the price variable. Okay, and then if I hit if I just do a proc print, this products underscore new data set, this should allow me to inspect my results. You can see from this that this new variable was created, and that it's basically the square root of the original variable. So there you go. You get a new data set that has 2 variables now, one of them being the square root of the other. Okay. Now if you also do proc contents, you also get some information. It's quite useful, especially when you're creating new variables. When you want to check their formats and what you got out of all this. It's a very useful exercise to do. So doing this, there you go. You've got your product's new data set and its contents information. So that's pretty much it, guys, and I'll see you in the next lecture.